Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, pushed out too soon into the dangerous wild, left there too quick in the midst of my pain, crying in the rain. Poetry has always been my way of dealing with my issues. I wrote those words as a teenager. You know, for we introverted types, the teenage years can be very difficult. I transitioned from boyhood to manhood. And I wrote those words then. But the melody and the first line, sometimes I feel like a motherless child, is an old one. It's a Negro spiritual. It's the song that those of our ancestors that were taken across the Atlantic Ocean, the songs they sang walking the cotton plantations of the American Deep South. They sang songs like, Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. We know what it means, right? Come by here. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Oh Lord, Kumbaya. Faced with the horrors of slavery, longing every day to be free from their pain, they sang songs. Songs like, I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. I'm gonna study war no more. I ain't 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 gonna study. Ay, ay, ay. Let's focus. Those were slave songs. Those were the songs that kept hope and faith alive through that long, dark night. Those were the songs that kept the flickering candle in the soul from going out. Those were the songs that sustained them. Those were the songs that eventually gave birth to the protest culture, to the protest movement of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Those were the songs that eventually gave them the strength to lift up defiant fists and begin to say, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. These were slave songs. These were the songs that nourished the souls of women like Rosa Parks, men like Thurgood Marshall. These were the songs that inspired a young Baptist preacher in 1963 to stand on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and declare what was in effect spoken word. Declare, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a country where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So yes, a song can inspire revolutionary change in society. As can a poem. Consider this one. turning and turning in a widening spiral. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, and the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the land. The blood-dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is lost. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Those lines come from a poem titled The Second Coming, written by the Irish poet W.B. Yeats. Well, those were the lines that inspired the title of Chinua Achebe's iconic novel, Things Fall Apart. A novel he wrote to dramatize how the coming of the Europeans led to the destruction of an indigenous African way of life. That work, Things Fall Apart, was itself part of a generation of works cutting across all genres and academic disciplines, united by a single purpose: to refute the belief that the black man had no civilization of his own before contact with the white man. That belief was the cornerstone of systemic racism in the 20th century. The belief that we, black people, came from the heart of darkness, with no history worthy of mention, eternally incapable of building civilizations of our own without the benevolent intervention of the white man. That was the belief that constituted the white man's burden. That was the belief that drove slavery and colonialism across the face of Africa. And therefore, if those Pan-Africanist and nationalist struggles were to succeed politically, it was first important to confront and tackle and dismantle these ideologies and mindsets. This was what inspired the writings of scholars like Sheikh Anta Diop and Ali Mazrui. This was what inspired the poetry of Leopold Senghor, the music of Mariam Makeba, the art of those rebel members of the Zaria Art Society, the stories of Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Yes, once upon a time, there was a generation of creatives who understood this, that art cannot just be for art's sake. Not when the children are dying of treatable diseases, and men and women are laboring under the burden of poverty, of ignorance and prejudice. Art cannot just be bling bling and booty shaking. Not when all is not well with the world outside the window of the artists. Yes, once upon a time, there was a generation of creatives who understood this. People like Wole Soyinka, Flora Nwagba, Buchi Emecheta, Fela and Nicola Okuti. Yes, once upon a time, there was a generation of artists who understood this. That to bring down the superstructure of oppression in society, you must first attack, relentlessly attack, the substructure of its supporting ideologies and mindsets. That to change society, you must first reach within to change the mind and heart of the individual. So yes, the creative sector can create jobs, like we're seeing in the film, in the music, in the fashion industry. This is true, and this is very good. Yes, the creative sector can lead the drive to diversify our economy from bottom up and wean us off our dependence on crude oil by demonstrating to us that our greatest treasures lie not beneath our feet, but within ourselves. Yes, the creative sector can inspire others. For creativity is not just limited to art and artists. Creativity is not just the ability to write a poem or a story. No, creativity is also the ability to build a road that will last 20 years instead of 2. It is also the ability to generate electricity without simultaneously punching holes in the skies. Creativity is also the ability to find a cure for cancer, to find a way of lifting 13 million children out of ignorance, 100 million people out of poverty in one generation. Creativity is also the ability to find new narratives, new stories, new songs, new perspectives that reach within to turn the hardened heart from prejudice to tolerance, from hate to love, from hopelessness to faith. Yes, the creative sector can do all this, but let us not lose sight of its highest calling. Let us not lose sight of what creativity is in essence. In essence, what is creativity? I'll tell you. Creativity is the capacity to cross a river that has never been crossed before, to climb a mountain that has never been climbed before. Creativity is the capacity to use what you have to get to a place you have never been before. Creativity is what happens when a young girl or a young boy, when a woman or a man, black or white, Christian or Muslim, northern or southern, comes to this recognition that when we harness the full potential of our bodies, of our minds and our spirits, then no matter the situation we find ourselves, no matter the odds we face, we'll discover that we carry within us the capacity to overcome. This is the belief that turns deserts into orchards. This is the belief that turns slums into safe neighborhoods. This is the belief that takes a collection of disparate, quarreling, weak communities and transforms them into one peaceful, powerful, stable, and united nation. This is the belief that powers development in human society. And so, when all is said and done, the greatest contribution the creative can make to his or her society is not to entertain, but to continuously remind those who are reading, those who are listening, and those who are watching of the transformative power resident in the human capacity to imagine. Thank you.